Here we are, finally, at the last guideline. After I'm done with this, I was telling my staff that I was going to have to basically go and do an entire excavation of the coronavirus couch. 20 videos in less than a month talking about community guidelines. I have one more video after this to wrap it all up, but then we're going to be done. That is a lot. It's also a lot of snacks and a lot of magazines and a lot of socks. It gets cold on the coronavirus couch. A lot of sunflower seeds. I have found that I do very well with sunflower seeds while thinking. Copious amounts of cold brew. No Chips Ahoy because I'm trying real hard to keep the carbs down, which is all the more impressive that I managed to do almost 20 videos without Chips Ahoy. Do I deserve a medal? I think I deserve a medal. I'm buttering you all up because this is the hardest guideline of all, but it's also the most important. And it's the one that makes you guys go, ooh. We're going to talk about money. We're talking about money. We're talking about dinero, moolah, lettuce. They used to call money lettuce. Can you believe that? Like, how much lettuce you got, Morty? That sort of thing. Coin. I'm running out of synonyms for money. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Money. Money. We don't need synonyms. We're just going to talk about money. We're talking about financial engagement, why it's so important, why we bang on it as much as we do. I'm going to read this guideline, and then we're going to talk about the guideline. And even though you're probably twitching a little bit, we're going to get through this. You and we're going to get through this. Let's go. Lastly, we consider financial engagement crucial, both for the health and sustainability of this space, but also for your personal practices, honoring the work of women of color. Both me and the contributors that we bring to you here on Lace on Race, as well as taking this ethic to other women of color who also write and agitate, means making this commitment a non-negotiable part of our walk, a non-negotiable part of your walk. It means ensuing the viability of this space, as well as for the community partners that we support, and it encourages your congruence regarding this praxis in your outside lives as well. This too, we're different regarding financial engagement in this regard. We overtly, straight up, eye to eye, ask and expect everyone who walks here to engage regardless of how they identify racially or ethnically. We walk with parity and mutuality here. No exceptions, no carve-outs. We are committed to this being a free-ish space. This means no paywall. Everyone is encouraged to enter and co-create community. This is a large risk for us, a very large risk. It means that for those for whom this space has value, you also, have a concomitant responsibility to seriously consider and then act upon a conviction to financially engage. Let's break this down piece by piece. We do harp a lot about money, and I think that it's both funny and rather annoying for me that after I finish this video for you guys for the guidelines, I'm going to turn around and do the ask because it's the first weekend of the month that I'm doing this. It's not something I enjoy. You guys should know this by now. I am not a fan of the asks. I'm not a fan of talking about money. For one thing, just on a practical level, it opens me up to charlatan cult leader every single time I open my mouth. We lose people every single time I open my mouth and ask for financial engagement. Every single time. And not just people who have been here a couple of weeks, people who have been here for a while. Didn't she ask 2 days ago? No, actually, sweetie, it was 3 weeks ago. I don't do the ask on the weekly the way I'm supposed to, frankly. That's the way it's supposed to be done. And particularly when during the summer when we had all that contention. Oh, my goodness. So let's have someone who has been called a charlatan cult leader asking for money on the daily. That just felt funky to me. Didn't have the stomach for it. But I have to have the stomach for it. Talking about financial engagement is also part of my praxis. It's part of my walking in congruence and mutuality with you all. One of the things that we do here is that we pay our contributors fairly, equitably, more than HuffPo, more than a lot of name brand major news and content sites out there. That is absolutely non-negotiable with us. I know that I have had people come to me and say, "Oh my gosh, we love what you write. We love how you write. Will you write for us?" And then I go, "Can you send me a rate card? What do you pay?" "Well, you'll get great exposure. I mean, we get a 2 million eyeball reach." Well, that's great. I guess I can take that to Albertsons. I can't. I tried. I went and got Raisin Bread and then said $2 million reach. And the lady just stared at me till I gave her $3.50 for the Raisin Bread. Lesson learned. Always get the Albertsons Raisin Bread. It's every bit as good as the name brand and it's like $2 cheaper. Shh. Anywho, taking this to other women, not just the women here, but outside. In the 2 years, almost 3 years that we've been doing Lace on Race, we've had two major national elections, the midterms in 2018 and again this year in 2020. Hopefully, getting people to think about money helped in terms of financing and funding women of color, that everyone says women of color should be in elective office, but nobody wants to fund them. No one thinks that women of color in general, Black women in particular, are worth compensation. And particularly the white cohort seems to think that their social capital, likes and hearts, and "oh, she's great," is enough. No, if it doesn't buy Raisin Bread at Albertsons, no. It's not just about ensuring the viability of this space. It's also about your own congruence. One of the things, hopefully, that when I'm harping on money, harping on financial engagement, harping on, and we have tried every single word in the book, contributions, financial engagement, all of that. While I'm harping, it's forcing you to do something you've probably never done before in a sustained way. It's forced you to think about money. No one does, really. They think about it if they don't have enough, but very rarely is money spoken about in a public forum. When I was conceptualizing the space, I was convinced that that needed to change, even though it would make me twitchy and uncomfortable. But part of my practice is to get you to become more congruent and aligned in the practice that you say that you hold. And one of those ways to become more aligned in that practice is to live it out via your pocketbook. We have had years and years, decades and decades, as long as I've been alive, and I'm pushing 60, in terms of white people saying, yes, we agree with it. Yes, we agree with you. Yes, we want a more just and equitable world. But their actions do not align with their stated words. That's why we still have segregated neighborhoods. That's why we still have workplaces and worship spaces that are stratified by race. That is why we ask this of you, because if we want to change the world, giving needs to be reflexive. Giving needs to be automatic. Giving needs to be marrow deep. And not just the needs you see, also the needs you anticipate, the needs that you extrapolate out. Being willing to financially partner with this space to ensure its health and viability is a great thing, but hopefully this praxis is also generalizable and transferable. If I want Lace on Race to continue, I must make sure that that happens. I must make sure. I can't wait for the other 9,998. I need to make sure. Okay, now extrapolate that out to, I want Lorena Gonzalez to be in the state Senate. That means I can't wait on everyone else. I need to get Lorena Gonzalez in the Senate. I want to see Monica Montgomery in City Council. So that's why I'm going to do this. Everyone needs to stop waiting for someone else. We see this here all the time. And we also need to learn how to do this, how to do this financial piece of praxis when there aren't exciting things happening or things that make your blood boil. We did pretty darn well during Jim and Kate and the Christian left. So well that some people actually accused us of making up the Christian left and Jim and Kate so that we could increase revenues. Let me tell you, it wasn't that big of a bump. Definitely wasn't worth it. But I think that that's something for us to think about. Doing social change work, and I've said this over and over and over, can be a lot of fun. It can also be exciting. It can also be blister inducing. As someone who has walked from a park in San Ysidro down to the Mexican border in Tijuana, back there, it took forever, but it was worth it. And I had blisters for a month. That's activism. Oh, by the way, picking up the trash in that park, there were about 2,000 of us there, that's activism too. Writing the follow-up letter is activism too. And by the way, making sure that the people who organized that space had money to do it not only that time, but the next time. A lot of times people who just like the fun part of activism, who just like the fun part of social justice work, don't really think about, that bottle of water that somebody handed me on mile 3, somebody paid for that. The fact that it took about 500 hours of organizing work to get this thing together, well, somebody paid for that too. And usually the people who fund social justice work are marginalized peoples and people who are in the back end and people who have less than most of the people who show up, get the water, do the walk, go home, back to their segregated community and think they did something. We need to learn to do the entire work of activism, soup to nuts. That includes financial engagement. That includes picking up the trash at the park. That includes nursing those blisters. That includes marching in solidarity with 2,000 other people as we all sang songs of liberation. But liberation is in everything. And liberation is in everything if you allow it to be. That is why we ask very specifically for something that we see a lot of on the ground in our offline lives, but not so much in online spaces, particularly with the model that has kind of shaken out to be over the last 4 years with racial justice spaces. Most of the time it is people of dominant culture who fund this space and who fund other spaces. I do not have a problem with that, but it's a both and for me. It is a both and. Everybody needs to have skin in the game. Everybody needs to live out their conviction and their praxis, not just pink people. And as a matter of fact, on a very, let's hope that it is more savvy than cynical way, do you really want white people to be the only people funding and therefore using their money as dollars of power? Because money is power. Now, we can make sure that we are really overt about the way that we have money, the way that we spend money, and that if people give us big donations or big financial contributions, we say, you realize that you're not buying us, right? I mean, thanks, it's going to go in the general pot. You don't get anything extra. You might get more responsibility, but you don't get more perks. And then they say, okay. But just the idea that they did opens that question up. So it's really important that everybody has skin in the game and everybody has a voice. Because learning to do it here means you learn to do it out there more consistently and more reliably. We love this space and we are committed to it being a free-ish space. We realize that a lot of people, and every month, people give me suggestions as to how to more effectively garner more funds. I've been doing this for 3 years. I've got a pretty good handle on it, but thank you. But one of the things that why don't you do Patreon? Why don't you go behind a paywall? There's a new space for content creators. You should try that too. And then people will give you, and it's like all of this. And it's like, okay, you guys are forgetting a few things. One, we are dedicated to being free-ish. I am going to beat the drum for financial engagement all the time, but I understand that this place is free-ish, that everybody gets to come and partake. It is a big deal to me. And to have a cost of admission at the door is unethical to my own praxis as well. As well. That makes for strata. We don't want that. And we realize that it's almost impossible to do all the things that we want to regarding money. No strata, no hierarchy. Everybody give, regardless of racial or ethnic identification. But it's still free-ish. That's exactly what we're saying. And we're hoping that you can see that duality and partner with us there. In the same way that we are a safe-ish space, we are a free-ish space for all of us. Also, to make the covert overt once again, the charlatan cult leader, that would be me, is not asking for your last pinto bean. It's not asking for you to be sacrificial to the point of masochistic. I am asking for sacrifice, not just for this space, but for other spaces as well, that you give from first fruits and not your excess or your leftovers. But there is a big difference between what I'm saying there and what people say over here. Absolutely not. What we hope for is that you are telling yourself the truth about what you have and telling the truth about what you're willing to do, not what you can do, but what you're willing to do. Part of the practice around money is taking responsibility about money and telling yourself the truth about the things that people like to think they don't have a lot of volition about, which is why they say can versus won't, and where they have agency, they don't think that they can. It means sometimes that you're going to have difficult conversation with your family, with your spouse. It means that sometimes you're going to have to say no. And I remember 2.5 years ago when I was following the same model that people use on the outside, that people were talking about latte money. Just give whatever you would spend at Starbucks, in this case, yum yum, give it to us. And that's what people were saying in all these social justice spaces. And okay, except I really want you to think about it. The same people that say they're 100% that they're ride or die also think that $2.35 is enough once, because most of the time people do a one and done. So we're asking you to rethink, tell yourself the truth, and also if you have decided that this is a space where you want for it to be around for a protracted, long, sustained amount of time, that you consider becoming part of Sustainer Circle, which is also being reworked. It'll probably be called Chef's Table going forward. But to be part of Chef's Table, it will absolutely be required that there is financial engagement. What you will notice is that I'm not naming a number. We don't name numbers because we realize that for one person, $50 is a rounding error in their checkbook. For another person, $5 is major sacrifice, which is why we want to make sure that both of these people are doing their praxis in the best way possible. For the woman for whom $5 is a stretch, I don't want you to find 10. I don't want you to take away from your children or from yourself. For the person who's 50 but knows that that's basically what she found in her jeans pocket last week, I'm asking her to really think about that too. And not necessarily just for this space, but for outside as well. And finally, and I think this is really, really important, we do this as a vote of confidence in ourselves and in the work that we are doing. We can talk about eradicating racism from now until the cows come home, but if there's no skin in the game, if we're basically saying we want it to happen, but we don't really have a huge stake in making sure that it happens, it's not going to happen, and everyone's going to look around. We don't know what happened. Yes, you do. Like you did in 2016, like you did in 2018, like you did in 2020. If we actually want to move the needle in terms of social justice and social change work, both electoral and grassroots, both online and in offline spaces, we need to learn to think about our money as part of our praxis, as part of our vote, and as part of our lived out lives. Your kids need to see you making these tough decisions. Your spouse needs to see you making these tough decisions. You need to see yourself asking yourself the hard questions when you are confronted with your bank statement every month. It's so hard. It's so hard to talk about money. And almost 3 years in, doing a modified version of the model that everyone else uses and that everybody hates as much as I do, I've never really gotten any better at it. What I hope is that you understand the rationale that I've given you, that you understand the need for it, and that you're willing to walk with me with this. Money is hard, but solidarity doesn't need to be.